Remedy's latest action title, Quantum Break, is an entertaining ride. It tells a reasonably interesting and well-paced story about a time travel experiment gone wrong, involving time powers, an evil corporation, and the breaking down of time itself. The characters are given just enough development to be worth caring about, and the dialogue is delivered well by the actors speaking it. As this is a narrative about the consequences of messing with time, it would be easy for the whole thing to become a confusing mess of paradoxes and plot holes, but Quantum Break does a good job of establishing its universe's rules and is never hard to follow or figure out. At the end of each act, you briefly take control of the antagonist and are asked to choose between one of two possible outcomes. The choices made here largely tie into the much-touted live-action television show that mostly focuses on side characters. Each episode lasts around 25 minutes and are actually worth watching. Not only do they add more context to the events taking place in the game, but the actual show is well produced with decent acting, directing, and action scenes. Some of the effects stand out as looking particularly odd, which makes the whole thing feel like a high-budget sci-fi channel original, but if you don't mind the idea of setting the controller down for extended periods, they're a fun watch, although what you choose during the brief aforementioned decision point has little overall impact on the live action scenes and the main narrative in general, which is disappointing. Quantum Break's weakest aspect is unfortunately its gameplay. It's by no means bad, but controlling the hero Jack feels somewhat clunky and his base shooting abilities are strangely limited. The cover system is entirely contextual, so you'll automatically take cover when near the appropriate points, which means Jack will occasionally stick to cover when you don't want him to, and refuse to enter cover when you desperately need him to. There's also no option to blind fire from cover or hip fire in general, so you'll always have to expose yourself to fire your weapon. The various time powers do help alleviate these issues to some degree, allowing Jack to do things like dash around, freeze soldiers in a bubble, and create a protective shield. Using these powers is pretty cool and definitely makes for some interesting tactics at first, but you'll quickly fall into a rhythm of knowing exactly what situations each power is useful for, and since the powers never change in any significant way, they aren't enough to carry the action all the way to the end. Overall, the shooting can be fun, but also could have been much better, which is a shame given Remedy's past titles. Quantum Break is worth experiencing for its solid 8 to 10 hour time travel tale. The gameplay needed to be less clunky and have more options, as it would make the game much easier to recommend. As it stands, if you're a big fan of the subject matter, then it might be worth picking up for the story as it is well told. For everyone else, I'd at least highly recommend the game as a fun weekend rental. Quantum Break gets a 7 out of 10.